We have some big AEW and WWE news and rumors to discuss in today's video, so as always, I'll put the timestamps in the description down below. I want to kick things off with AEW and more specifically Thunder Rosa, because this has become a very weird situation, at least from a fan perspective. For those who don't know, Thunder Rosa has been out for quite a bit of time due to injury. And obviously, AEW hasn't really talked about this or anything like that. When she was the champion, they forced her to vacate. We saw Toni Storm at that point, instead of being the interim champion, historically has been now acknowledged as the actual world champion. But now on adfreeshows.com, Thunder Rosa was talking about AEW going to Wembley Stadium. She was talking about her personal health. And it's just kind of, it kind of sucks, man. So for those who don't know, she's been injured. There hasn't really been any talk about her coming back. And at the same time, too, AEW has All Access, which is like their reality show, which they kind of dive into the Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa stuff a little bit. But on the show, she mentioned, just about her health and kind of like how it's not really looking good. She said, "This week I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. There's been some weeks, and I'm not going to lie, it's been really dark, especially when you think you're making steps coming back to the ring and the pain does not leave your body. I've done pretty much everything to avoid certain things that you don't want to do, like surgery. There are talks of having surgery. I mean, it is scary. It's just stuff because of everything that has happened and how things have transpired. It really sucks because I'm not allowed to do the things that I used to do before, even in my personal life. I'm not just talking about professional wrestling. I can't do jiu-jitsu. I can't go and do certain things because I can land wrong and that will hinder my rehab and stuff. Some weeks I've been very, very dark and I just feel like I'm never going to wrestle again. And some other weeks things are going really, but when I get in the ring, not so well. You have to be realistic with certain things and how you're going to deal with and cope with certain things because, of course I want to go and wrestle. Of course I want to go back and reclaim myself in there as a competitor." She then goes on to talk about how there's new talent and stuff, coming into the company, but obviously she's doing stuff behind the scenes with production and commentary. And, the thing about Thunder Rosa and her injury that's really weird is just that, at first, I don't think a lot of people expected her to be out of the ring this long. And the fact that she doesn't even know if she's going to be able to wrestle again, it just sucks, right? And we've seen time and time again with wrestlers, they come back from injuries. We saw Adam Cole, he eventually came back. We saw Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson. We've seen so many people. Obviously, Edge and Christian are two of the names as well. But when you see these people get injured in a serious level, it sucks, man. And, I look at the AEW women's division right now and I just see how much it's improved. It's not perfect, but it's improved so much since the days of Thunder Rosa actually being champion. I would love to see Thunder Rosa involved with these storylines, and I just have to wonder exactly what her potential could be with AEW if she is unable to compete. I really do hope Thunder Rosa does get to come back, and I really do hope that she gets to come back in a healthy manner. But obviously, health becomes a priority, right? And it should always be the thing that comes first. And in a situation with wrestlers, it's not really risk. It's not really worth the risk of ruining your life. And I think that's really important for people to understand that. And obviously with Thunder Rosa too, I think she is such a great talent and she's been such a great talent. I don't think a lot of people have actually been able to really see everything that she can do. And obviously we hope for the better. Keeping on track with AEW stuff, guys, Tony Khan revealed today on Twitter that AEW has just done over 50,000 tickets for AEW All In. And this is during the pre-sale. Obviously, the general sale begins tomorrow. The reason why I'm following this so closely is because obviously anybody who's a fan of the wrestling industry knows how important it is for AEW to have a successful event at Wembley Stadium. And I think a lot of people are getting tied up in the tribalism and stuff, and they really, really want to see AEW's downfall. But ultimately, the fact that another company, which by the way has only been around for about four and a half years maybe, the fact that they've been around for such a short period of time and they're able to do this is great. Now, on the other side of that, you see a lot of people who are talking about AEW's domestic ticket sales, where maybe some markets aren't doing as well. Or maybe people are bringing up the fact that AEW has their ratings, which are going down. Just under 800,000 viewers was what was revealed this week. And, the thing is, when I look at ticket sales, when I look at ratings, when I look at general interest, I think there's so many measurements that make up for whether or not a company is successful. you can't just strictly look at ratings. And I don't think ratings today are actually as relevant as they were 20, 30 years ago. The entire way that we consume content in media in 2023 is so different that I don't think that's a fair analysis. Now, ticket sales is a great analysis because if you're selling out shows, that means people are interested, right? And again, it's not the main indicator, but I think it's a good indicator to look and say, wow, I think this could be a potential success. Now, I think AEW doing these types of numbers, 50,000 seats for Wembley, is incredible. Does this mean that AEW has built a strong enough presence to go to New York or Tennessee or this or whatever, right? It doesn't mean every show they do can do 50, 60, 70,000 seats. But the point that I'm making is 50K is such an incredibly strong number, and we still haven't even reached general sale. And then I hear the argument about ticket scalpers and stuff like this. Guys, they're going to exist regardless. It exists with WWE and AEW. It exists with concerts and sporting events. That's normal. Like that's a normal thing. It sucks, but the reality is it does exist. And secondly, I think AEW doing 50K just goes to show you how healthy the actual industry is, right? A lot of people don't seem to understand that, like, if AEW is struggling and AEW is doing bad, WWE will never get better, right? WWE will not be competitive. WWE competes with everything. UFC, and they're tied to UFC now, but they compete with anything that captures somebody's attention. So if WWE is really hot and AEW is really hot and Impact is really hot, more wrestlers get paid, more content creators get paid, more fans have something to enjoy, and overall, in general, it is just better for everybody because of the fact that wrestlers could go to different places. Now, for those, and I bring up Drew McIntyre because he's somebody I've talked about recently, but if Drew McIntyre were to go to AEW, it would not be good for Drew McIntyre to go to AEW if they're not selling tickets, if they're not generating a ton of interest. But if Drew McIntyre, a top name in WWE, did, for example, go to AEW, it would be good if AEW is extremely hot, because what if AEW's top stars want to go to WWE? Right? So I think a lot of people are getting lost in this tribalism stuff, but ultimately 50K is still a really, really solid number, and I actually look at that as accomplishment. But I also look at what WWE is doing, and I think their product is hot, and they're doing a good job. And creatively, they're not going to be perfect, but they're maintaining interest. And I think people are forgetting that. When you can maintain interest, it's a big deal. And that brings us to our final story today, guys, WWE. It's been a very, very big year for WWE in terms of ticket sales and everything. And a lot of people are wondering, how is WWE really going to continue that momentum, especially now with a brand split? And one of the big rumors that we've been discussing, honestly, for about a year now, is the idea that WWE wants to implement new championship belts across the board. Now, we saw the Intercontinental Championship and the U.S. title get new belts. We saw the World Heavyweight Championship get revealed. But now there's talks of WWE potentially bringing in a new WWE Women's Championship for SmackDown and for Raw without the show branding on it, meaning there could be new championship belts for SmackDown and Raw without the name, right? Now, if you guys look at NXT, and I think this is a perfect example of WWE, what they could potentially do, WWE took the NXT championship, the World Championship, right? And they basically created that for the women, but with a white strap. Now, I did a terrible job photoshopping this, but I imagine if WWE is going to, at some point, introduce new women's championship belts, we're probably going to see something very similar being done for Raw, meaning the title belt that Rhea Ripley holds could probably look like the World Heavyweight Championship, but with a white strap, maybe some small modifications. I would then also assume that SmackDown's Women's Championship belt would look like something more like the Universal Championship or whatever WWE does there. My point that I'm making is new women's championship belts are definitely needed. I would like to see new women's championship belts, and it looks like it could very well happen. I would expect this to be a very, very similar thing to come to fruition. But I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. A lot of big things happening in wrestling. I want to hear from you. Thank you for watching.